and welcome to another edition of Water Wellness and the importance that water has on our lives. Today, University of Maryland Extension Water Quality Specialist Dr. Andy Lazor is going to talk about climate change and water quality. Andy, we hear a lot about climate change and think of natural disasters such as hurricanes, increased drought, bigger storms, and heavier rain events. Does this impact our drinking water quality? If so, how?
Yeah, Elizabeth, you're just right. Climate change definitely is impacting our environment in many ways. And the events that you mentioned, specifically hurricanes, drought, and floods, can affect our drinking water quality in several ways. So, for example, hurricanes, they cause coastal flooding. And coastal flooding can cause multiple issues because it can impact both public drinking water infrastructure as well as private wells. And if they get flooded, then they're subjected to the whole suite of things that are in that water, including bacteria, viral pathogens, but also surface contaminants, things that we use every day, whether it be fertilizers, chemicals, whatever the case may be, and also sewage. Also, when you think about another event caused by climate change, and that means basically more frequent and heavier storms, that can also cause flooding, and you get the same sort of impacts to your water supplies. Yeah, another element of climate change is what's called sea level rise. And this increases brackish or saltwater intrusion into rivers, which then increases the salt levels in groundwater, which we use for homes through our wells. So in some areas, the wells actually had to be closed for a length of time until that floodwater subsided and the actual groundwater quality kind of reversed and was flushed out more towards the coast. So that can happen. The other thing that can happen with increased sea level rise is, again, that groundwater concentration of sodium and chloride increases, and that can be a problem, particularly for those that are on a sodium restricted diet. So the other kind of maybe not talked about issue with chloride and sea level rise and ground saltwater intrusion in our aquifers is increased corrosivity. So chloride plays a pretty important role in increasing the corrosivity of water, and that can actually cause damage to plumbing, for example, your appliances. And then it also can release heavy metals from your plumbing. You've heard about the lead crises that we've seen around the country. And oftentimes, not always, but sometimes, that's a result of increased corrosion potential or corrosivity of the water, which then releases the lead and copper from the plumbing.
So what can we do as homeowners?
Yeah, well, first off, if your well is flooded, you absolutely have to have that well tested. Probably have to go on bottled water and test it for coliform bacteria and E. coli. You want to be sure that your well has not been contaminated. And then if it is positive, then you're going to have the well disinfected. And that's usually using some sort of chlorine or bleach solution. And there is information from multiple sources about how to disinfect the well, or you can hire a well contractor to come and disinfect it. And then after it's disinfected, you have to then test it again to be sure that you don't have a positive E. coli or coliform bacteria. And then if you happen to live in a flood-prone area, the other thing that you can do when you're on a well, you can actually have the wellhead elevated. So for example, if you have a wellhead that's, say, only 12 inches above the surface of the ground, and you get a 2-foot flood, then that well is flooded. So what you can do is actually extend the wellhead by 1 to 2 feet, whatever makes sense, particularly for your location. And then you also want to make sure that the well cap, that's the cap on top of the well casing, you want to be sure that that is in good shape and actually provides a good seal around the well casing. Otherwise, water can get into the well and you can have a contaminated situation.
So Andy, what if they live on the coast?
So again, if you're located near the coast, you can test your water for chloride and sodium. And if it's elevated, then you could consider actually putting what's called a reverse osmosis filter on your drinking water supply. So in other words, your kitchen sink. That's where the water that you drink or used for cooking. If, however, the chloride level is so high that it's impacting your appliances, then what you're going to have to look at is installing a whole house reverse osmosis filter. And again, that's going to treat all your water. But that's only necessary if your levels are so high where you're noting some sort of corrosion on your plumbing or corrosion on your appliances. So again, testing your water is important. Making sure that your well head is in good condition and elevated to avoid the floods.
Thank you so much, Andy. If you'd like more information or resources on water quality, septics, wells, groundwater, or ponds, please check out our state water quality specialist, Andrew Lazor's YouTube channel for videos and podcasts. That's Water Quality, University of Maryland Extension. His website, Google UME Wells and Septics, or his Facebook page, University of Maryland Water Quality. Also, please register through our website for our next Wednesday water webinar on February 19th, where Andy will discuss common drinking water contaminants and how to treat them. Thank you all for tuning in.